So, welcome to the week 8, okay? So, ang topic natin for this week 8 is yung ating Course Unit 3 and Course Unit 4. So, Course Unit 3, it tackles about terrorism, bombing, and money laundering. As I said a while ago, hindi na natin i-discuss ang money laundering since na-discuss na siya ng prelims. And then, the last one is Course Unit 4, Carnapping and Anti-Fencing. So, I hope na matapos natin to within 1 hour. So, kung hindi man natin to matapos within 1 hour, siguro mag-i-exit ako today. Pero, yung gusto na mag-leave after 1 hour, you can leave. Okay? So, Course Unit 3, Terrorism, Bombing, and Money Laundering. So, let's start with terrorism. What comes into your mind when you hear the word terrorism? Do you have any idea?
Yun po, ma'am, yung di po sang-ayon sa may government, yung mga...
Hindi sang-ayon sa government. Ano pa?
Malakian po yung yung epekto.
Malakian ang epekto. Ano yung epekto na binibigay ni terrorism?
Takot po sa government, ma'am.
Okay, ito yung takot. Fear, hindi from the government. Ang terrorism kasi hindi naman government ang gumagawa niyan. Sino gumagawa ng terrorism? Yung mga against with the government. Okay. So terrorism, it is under the RA 11479. So it is committed by any person who within or outside the Philippines, regardless of the stage of execution in what? Ito. Ano yung mga acts? These are the acts that constitute terrorism. Itong CRDI311, which is special crime, para din siyang law. Kasi ang itinatakal niya, specific crimes. Diba? So, parang dito pag-aaralan lang natin, specifically yung mga special crime kung paano sila i-investigate. Okay? So, these are the, acts or elements on how to constitute a terrorism. So, it is committed by any person who within, or outside the Philippines, regardless of the stage of execution. Kung sinabi yung stage of execution, kahit ba attempted man lang yan, frustrated, or consummated. Okay, number 1, it engages in acts intended to cause deaths or serious bodily injury to any person or endangers a person's life. Next naman, it engages in acts intended to cause extensive damage or destruction to government or public property or facility, public place, or private property. It engages in act intended to cause extensive interference, damage, or destruction to critical infrastructure. Itong Terrorism 11479, ito yung naging viral lang kamakailan. Alam niyo yung madaming artista ang naging kay Duterte, yung bakit ganito, terrorism na agad, sabi nila. Yun. Kasi dati, ang nagpapunish lang sa act ng terrorism is RA 9372. Yun lang. Dati po. Ang scope kasi ng pagiging terrorism ng law na yun, napaka-konti lang. So actually, itong RA 11479 was made by our, yung mga deans natin with the criminology. Okay? It was proposed or parang ginawa din nila yan with the help of the other, with the, tawag dito, sa mga congressmen or so what. Kasi nga, alam nyo, bakit nila in-enhance itong terrorism law? Kasi anyone can produce a terrorism. Hindi lang natin namamalayan. Bakit po? Kasi hindi natin yun fino-focus. Pero at least, sabi nila, bakit ngayong pandemic pa yan pinirmahan or so what? Kasi alam niyo naman, kung gumagawa tayo ng batas, diba hindi naman siya yung agad-agad na pipirmahan? Malay mo, nagawa na yan dati pa yung bill na yan. Okay? Ngayon lang siya napirmahan. Parang yung sa Manila Bay. Dati pa yan. 2 years ago pa yung bill na yan ginagawa. Ngayon lang siya pinirmahan. So, akala kasi ng mga tao, okay? Hindi ko naman parang hindi ako ginajudge or so what. Pero I want you to open your mind. I don't want you to be like the others na parang judgmental agad with the government or so whatever. Alam naman natin na ang batas, okay? Hindi naman yan agad-agad na kung draft nila ngayon, yun na. Di ba magkakaroon pa ng madaming readings yan? So, hindi naman ibig sabihin na napirmahan siya ngayong pandemic, agad-agad din ginawa lang siya ngayon, tapos pinirmahan nila. Lahat ng laws na yan, ginawa yan 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before pa mangyari ang pandemic na to. So, hindi naman ibig sabihin nagkaroon ng pandemic, may stop na yung trabaho ng mga sa Congress na hindi na pag-aaralan ng mga bill na pinapasa. Kasi bago maging law ang isang batas, ginagawa mo ng bill yan, di ba? Gagawin mo na ng bill, magkakaroon mo ng Senate reading, magkakaroon mo ng House of Representatives or so what. So, it took years before a law could be could be established. Katulad lang nung lowering the height for the PNP, napasa pa lang siya sa Senate. Hindi pa siya nagiging sa congressman or sa House of Representatives. Diba? Dati pa yung bill na yon. Sobrang dati pa yung bill na yon. If I was not mistaken, last 2016 pa or 2017 pa ginagawa yon. Pero ngayon lang nag-a-arrest. Kasi nga, pag gumagawa po tayo ng batas, hindi siya ganun kabilis. Okay? So, please, open your mind. Sana huwag kayong maging kamuka ng ibang tao na they will judge na ganun-ganun lang. Kasi if you are born to be criminology or you are enrolled in a criminologist school, dapat mag-iiba yung perception mo in seeing things, 'di ba? Hindi ka na agad-agad judgmental kapag bakit niya nagawa yung crime na yon, 'di ba? Yung iba kasi agad-agad aawayin nila yung mismong kriminal, 'di ba? Without knowing yung the real reason why does a criminal ginawa yon. Bakit niya ginawa yon? 'Di ba may mga theories tayo? Kaya nga 'di ba meron din tayong subject na criminal behavior? Kasi pinag-aaralan natin kung ano ang nasa utak niya, ano ang ugali nila or so what, or ano ang naging causes. Tandaan nyo, kapag criminology student kayo, nag-iiba dapat ang perception mo about crime or so whatever, nagiging mas malawak yan. Kailangan iniintindi mo muna. Hindi kayo katulad ng ibang tao na porket may nagawang ganito, ganun agad ang judgment niya. Naintindihan? Kasi nga, pinag-aral natin yung real causes. So, balik tayo kay terrorism. Okay? 11479, ito yung naging viral noon. Bakit po? Kasi ngayon, kahit ganyan lang yung acts niya, it constitute na as a terrorism. Diba? Sabi niya, it engages in acts intended to cause extensive interference, damage, or destruction to critical infrastructure, develops, manufacture, possess, acquires, transport supplies, or weapons, explosive or biological, nuclear, radiological, or chemical weapons. It release of dangerous substance or causing fire, flood, or explosion. So, hindi lang siguro na tawag din na insert dito ng Sir Neil. Pero yung isa pang act kasi na naging viral sa RA 11479, yung pati yung sa posting of sa social media, parang ang iniisip kasi nila, nababiolate lang yung freedom of speech. Diba? Yun yung iniisip kasi ng ibang tao na nababiolate natin yung freedom of speech. Yung kanwari magpo-post ka lang sa social media ng ganito or so what. It will constitute a terrorism also. Depende po sa words. If you are inciting na parang kasi pag terrorism parang nag-i-incite ka to the others, diba? Yung parang labanan mo with the government. Ganyan. So ganun ang sinasabi niya. Inciting to make a fear among the populace. So when the purpose of such acts by its nature, and context is to intimidate the general public or a segment thereof, create an atmosphere or spread a message of fear. Ayun, a message of fear to provoke or influence by intimidation of the government or any international organization or seriously destabilize or destroy the fundamental political, economic, or social structures of the country, or create a public emergency or seriously undermine public safety shall be guilty of terrorism. Okay? Again, to intimidate a general public or an atmosphere or spread a message of fear. Kasi always remember, in terrorism, this is spreading a fear among the populace. Spreading fear among the populace. So terrorism shall not include advocacy, protest, dissent, stoppage of work, industrial or mass actions, and other similar exercise, civil and political rights. Siyempre, hindi naman ini-include ng terrorism yung mga kanwari nagwewelga sila. Siyempre, meron tayong karapatan magwelga or so what, or protest. So, terrorism as a social science perspective. Ano ba dito? So, this social science researchers defines a terrorist as action as the calculated of use of unexpected, shocking, and unlawful violence against non-combatants. Nakita niyo na ba yung assignment niyo na nalagay ko doon sa mismo canvas? Ang pinapa-assignment ko dun sa inyo about terrorism,
Yes po.
yung 9/11 attacks. Bakit po, ma'am? Kasi alam niyo yung 9/11 attack na yun sa Amerika, it is unexpected, it is shocking, it is unlawful violence.
Yung dalawang building na
Yes. So, panoorin niyo yung movie na yon, yung SEAL Team 6. Sila yung nag-ano kay Osama Bin Laden. Tawag dito, nag-grade or siya yung gumawit sila ng hanapin nyo or tingnan nyo kung paano nila napatay si Osama Bin Laden. Okay, maganda that movie or para siyang documentary, kinukwento nila kung paano nila nakuha itong si Osama Bin Laden. You should watch this one and make a review for that. So, including in addition to civilians of duty, military, and security personnel in peaceful situations. So, other symbolic targets, sabi niya, perpetrated by clandestine members. Alam niyo naman ibig sabihin ng clandestine, di ba? Nakatago. Or subnational group or clandestine agents for psychological purpose of publicizing a political or religious cause or intimidating a coercing government or civilian population into accepting demands on behalf of the cause. Sa terrorism, lagi meron silang hinihingi within the government. Yan, may hinihingi silang kapalit. Ganun ng terrorism. So, these are the broad categories of terrorism. We have domestic and international. Hindi ko na siguro masyadong elaborate. Kapag nakita nyo domestic terrorism, it means it is within that country. Residents of country within that country. Ibig sabihin, yung mismong nagka-create ng terrorism is yung mga members ng nation or yung mga nakatira within that specific country. Pag sinabi naman nating international terrorism, eto na yon, country by the other countries. Diba? Katulad nga nung 9/11 attacks. Diba? International terrorism is political-oriented, extreme violence that is perpetrated by residents or representatives of one or more countries against the interests of another country. Countries versus countries yan, yung international terrorism. Yung 9/11 attacks, that is international terrorism. Kasi, di ba, taga Middle East sila, and then, tawag dito, ang inattack nila is yung sa Amerika. So, these are the specific type of terrorism. We have left-wing, we have right-wing, single issue, national or ethnic, and race-based, and narco, and cyber. Ayan, sige, say natin. Dito muna tayo kay left-wing. Madali lang itong intindihan, okay? In its purest form, okay, left-wing extremists would like to see the creation of nation in which means of production will be commonly owned. Commonly owned, okay? Every person will receive what he or she needs, and every person will contribute what he or she can best provide. Sa left-wing extremism, okay, ang pinaglalaban ng mga left-wing na to, gusto nila pantay-pantay lahat ng tao. Okay, walang government-owned, walang masyadong mayaman or so whatever. Ang gusto na dito, every person will receive what he or she needs. At ang kapalit lang, and every person will contribute what he or she can best provide. Yun lang. Kahit konti lang ang mabigay niya, ganun na siya. So, education will be available to all. Yun ang gusto niya. In accordance to natural skills and abilities. Medical needs will be met as required. Everyone will be equal. Gusto nila equality sa mga left wing. Okay? Everyone will be equal in the eyes of the state. So, in essence, there will be classless. Walang mahirap, walang mayaman, kasi nga, pantay-pantay lang. Okay? Peaceful society. Most supporters of this socialist concept believe that some form of transition period must occur between the present form of the government and that society that will ultimately be created. So this is usually referred to as dictatorship of the proletariat. So in theory, this transition is occurring in Cuba and was occurring in the former Soviet Union prior to its breakup and in China during the Mao Zedong era. Yan yung mga left-wing extremism. Dati pa naman pinaglalaban nila yan. Gusto nila pantay-pantay lang. Walang mayaman, walang mahirap. Pero sa tingin nyo, maganda ba yun? Yung walang mayaman, walang mahirap?
Opo.
Sa iba, oo. How about yung iba? Hindi. Ako din.
Hindi mo.
Bakit? Kasi,
Balance.
alam nyo, hindi tayo magbabalance. Kung lahat pantay-pantay lang, ha? Kung lahat pantay-pantay
Ma'am, pwede
lang,
bang
sino ang magtatrabaho sa ganito? 'Di ba? Sino ang magugustong maging janitor? Diba? Sinong magugustong sila yung magtatanim ng palay or so whatever? Kung pareho lang naman ang kinikita. Diba? Ano sasabihin mo? Unfair. Pareho lang naman tayo ng tinatanggap pero ang trabaho ko ganito. Unfair. Ako naglilinis ito, ikaw nasa office lang. Tapos pareho lang tayo ng sinusweldo. Diba? It will be unfair. Pwedeng maganda siya. Maganda siya sa paningin natin na okay, maganda na walang mahirap pero walang mayaman. Pero magkakaroon ng chaos doon. Diba? Kasi mamimili na sila ng trabaho nyon. Therefore, yung mga iba na kailangan sa gantong trabaho, hindi nila gagawin yun. Bakit? Isipin ng iba. Ako, nagpapakahirap ako dito, maghapon, ganito ang trabaho ko. Nagbabalat ng nyug, nagbabalat ng ganito. Tapos ikaw, nasa office, computer. Eh, what if lahat ng tao gusto nila, nasa office na lang? Kasi para-pareho lang naman sa ako, di ba? Kasi wala namang mahirap, wala namang mayaman. Dati rin, nung high school ako, naisip ko na rin yan. What if pantay-pantay na lang? Di ba? Tapos, dun nga ko naisip na, oo nga, what if, kung pantay-pantay nga, eh di kung pantay lang naman ang swahod ng, for example, owner ka ng company dati. Eh tapos, owner ka pa rin ng company, pero ganun na lang sahod mo. Anong gagawin mo? Eh di mas tutulsikin nila yung owner ng company. Bakit? Kasi wala siyang masyadong ginagawa dahil utos lang siya ng utos. Kita nyo? Tingnan nyo, look for the another side. Maganda yung walang mahirap, walang mayaman. Pero think of it, hindi tayo magiging balance. Diba? Hindi magiging balance ang mundo kapag walang mahirap, walang mayaman. Kasi yung ibang trabaho or yung mga ibang aspect, hindi nila gagawin. Naintindihan po. So that is left-wing extremism. Ang pinaglalaban nila is ganun nga, classless or so what. Maganda sana, kaso hindi siya hindi talaga siya uubra.
Pwede bang pumasok dyan yung yung Black Lives Matter, ma'am?
Ang sa Black Lives Matter naman kasi, race din yun. Race. Mamaya, meron yun. Iba yun. Race naman kasi yun, di ba? Yung hate ng kanilang ethnic or so what. Yun ang Black Lives Matter. Kasi nadidiscriminate lang yung mga black man people or mga gano'n, di ba? Yung mga nag-Africa or so what. Mamaya, papakita ko kung dun yung papasok dun sa isang category. So,
Okay
for
po,
the
ma'am.
left wing, we have the right wing. Ito naman, syempre, opposite ni left wing. So on the surface, it would seem that if left-wing extremism seeks a classless society with everyone being equal, which in the end will almost run itself, right-wing proponents must want the exact opposite. Siyempre, exact opposite yan. Ito naman, this is a strong central government that owns the means of productions and rigidly controls the lives of residents, are a government that offers a citizenship to chosen class with others being denied full membership or excluded completely. Kung ang left wing gusto nila classless, syempre, baligtad naman kay right wing. Ito naman, gusto talaga nila may talagang specific na mayaman pa siyang kumukontrol sa lahat. Ganon. Emphasis state that all its nationalist and supremacist philosophies comes to mind. So as a matter of fact, everyone agrees that a fascist Nazi dictatorship is a right-wing form of government. Alam niyo yung sa Nazi? Ayan. Yung kay Hitler. Yan. Ang sinasabi nila, that is a right-wing form of government. A monarchy would also qualify as a right-wing government. Ibig sabihin, meron silang, di ba kapag right-wing or pag dictator, parang siya lang yung specific na mayaman or parang, tapos siya na yung nagko-control sa lahat. Ganun yun. Ganun din sa monarchy, di ba? Ang monarchy ito yung may king and queen. Diba? Tapos sila lang yung mayaman, diba? Sila yung pinakamayaman, sila yung pinaka-class, tapos sila na yung kumukontrol sa state nila. Ganun yan. So, buti na lang sa atin is democracy. Mas gusto ko naman tong democracy
England.
kesa sa monarchy. Okay, maganda ang merong hari at reyna. Pero, diba, di mo maisip, sila lang ba yung laging nasa taas? Diba? Ganun. So, ganun lang siya. So, syempre, iba-iba naman tayo ng paniniwala. Next. Single issue or special interestism. So the concern may be such in his issue could be characterized as being leftist or rightist. Itong single issue is pwedeng leftist or rightist. So but these terms are usually not best applied to such causes. Many single issue terrorists are fairly satisfied, okay, that the way that their country is being run in general. So however, the single interest terrorist has a specific concern that he wants addressed immediately. He is willing to use extreme violence, even murder, to achieve his objective. So the primary single issue or special interest terrorist cause currently include animal rights, environmental or eco-issue, anti-abortion. Itong single issue, special interest terrorism, gusto naman niya yung government. Kahit pa left-wing yan, kahit pa right-wing yan. Okay lang sa kanya. Okay lang yung form of government niya. Ang ginagawa ng single issue, special interest terrorism, meron lang siyang pinaglalaban na specific. Sabi niya, sige, okay lang na dictator ka, okay lang na right-wing ka, pero paglalaban ko yung animal rights. Sample lang yan. Okay lang na left-wing tayo, pero paglalaban ko is yung anti-abortion or so what. Meron lang siyang specific na ayaw sa mismong government. Hindi naman niya, parang ganito, gusto naman niya si Duterte or so what, pero ang ayaw lang niya kay Duterte is yung mga namamatay due to the drug war or the war on drugs. Parang okay lang naman siguro yung pamamahala ni Duterte, pero ayoko lang yung mga killings, di ba? Yung mga judicial killings, extrajudicial killings ni Duterte. Ganun siya. Meron lang specific na ayaw niya doon sa mismong government. Hindi naman yung buong government or administration yung ayaw niya. Meron lang specific. Ganun lang siya. Yun ang single issue or special interest terrorism. Next, ito. National or ethnic terrorism. Okay, there are people who will use force and violence to forge a homeland for their ethnic or national group. Often, they are considered domestic terrorists because their battle is with the government that controls the area where their group resides. Itong national or ethnic terrorism, this is the parang domestic terrorism siya. Wherein, mayroon lang specific group. For example, dito sa atin, yung mga NPAs. Diba? Meron lang tayong specific group, tas parang nilalabanan nila ang government. Meron silang hinihingang demand, diba? Na libre lang ang ballot, so what? So, ganun ang national or ethnic terrorism. This is a domestic terrorism. Next, ito. Ito, race-based or hate terrorism. Dito papasok yung Black Lives Matter. Diba? So, the fact that an individual or group hates someone because they belong to another race, nationality, creed, sexual orientation, or age, or any other reason does not automatically make them terrorists. But to be considered a terrorist, the bigot or hate group must commit violent attacks against those they despise in an effort to cause them extreme fear. Okay? Hindi naman, for example, kunwari, merong mga tao na ayaw sa mga Black American. Pero hindi ibig sabihin na ayaw nila sa Black American, terrorist na agad yan. Magiging terrorism pa lang yan kapag they commit violence attacks against doon sa mga race na yon. Naintindihan? Pero kung kunwari, simpleng hatred lang, ayoko sa mga black man, discrimination lang yon. Pero kung yung discrimination mo na yon is nag-result na into violence, therefore that is terrorism. Okay? Conceivably, di ba, the person or group could also attack the government in an effort to force it to create restrictions against the hated group. Lalo na kapag di ba ayaw talaga nila, madalas ayaw nila sa mga black man or sa mga black people. So, minsan nagkakaroon sila ng less yung privilege nila, di ba, sa government or so what. Kasi nga, yun nga, nadidiscriminate sila. Kapag yung mga yon is nag-lead na into violence or so what, force or so what, that could lead as a terrorism. So, furthermore, they could attack business, organizations, citizens whom they believe are sympathetic to the targeted group in an effort to convince them to dissociate from the hated group. For example, yung mga may ayaw sa mga black man na yon, ang ginawa nila is, yung naghihikayat sila sa government, kinausap nila yung mga other businesses na within the America, wag niyong tanggapin itong mga to ha. Pag nag-apply itong mga black man people na to, wag niyong tatanggapin. Or kahit saan. O kapag papasok to sa restaurant, itong mga black man na to, huwag niyong tatanggapin. That is a form of terrorism. Kasi yung hatred mo, nagre-result na siya sa hindi lang sa iyo, sa sarili mo, yung ayaw mo sa kanila. Ang ginawa mo, block mo yung privileges nila. Diba? Not only with the government, but also with the members of the society. Pati yung mga businesses, organizations, diba? Or sino mang mga citizens, or sabi nga nila na, parang ginagawa mo dito is, iniiba mo yung perception ng mga ibang tao about dun sa kinihate mo na race na yon or ethnic. So, most people who hate enough to commit violence attacks also harbor views that would better classify them in other forms of terrorism. For example, diba? Many right-wing terrorists have agendas or hate against some non-whites and Jewish people. So, some religious terrorists have hatred for particular groups of people. Ethnic terrorists also commonly hold such hatreds. So, yung mga hatred na yan kapag hindi lang siya simple sa'yo, ginawa mo is pinalaganap mo, di ba? You spread that hatred, therefore that is also form of terrorism. Race-based or hate terrorism. Hindi nga siya yung parang violence na parang sinugatan mo sila or pinatay mo sila. Pero yung the fact na inaalisan mo sila ng karapatan, di ba? Yung parang inaalis mo sa kanila yung mga privileges nila or what, that is a form of terrorism. Intindihan po? That is a race-based or hate terrorism. Parang dito, yung mga badyaw sa Philippines, di ba? Yung iba parang pinagkakalat nila na yung mga badyaw ganito magnanakaw, yung mga badyaw ganito ganyan. Yan. Next is narco terrorism. Yan. Narco terrorism is the use of extreme force and violence by producers and distributors of narcotics against a government or population intended to coerce the body to modify its behavior in their favor. Yung mga pinag-aralan nating mga mafia, organized crime. Yan, narco-terrorism yan. So, the narco-terrorism has been used by some to refer virtually any violent actions taken those engaged in narcotic business. Pag sinabi natin narcotics, this is the engagement with the illegal drugs or illicit drugs. So, such people would even use the term to describe a violent turf battle between rival drugs distributors. Minsan, di ba, yung mga group, OCG natin, naglaban-laban sila. Yan. Next, syempre, yung cyber terrorism. Ito, yan. The computer is a tool that can be used virtually any political terrorist to perpetrate an act that could result in extreme violence and fear. Computers also can be targets or victims of terrorist attacks. Meron po tayong cyber terrorism na the use of the computer, the use of internet, they spread fear among the populace by the use of the social medias. Yan yung parang nagiging issue ngayon. Diba? Na sabi nila, so pag pala nag-rant ako about the government na gato, terrorism na. Hindi naman po ganon. There is a specific sanction, syempre. Basahin niyo yung batas na RA 11 for, sabi niya dito? 479. Okay? Yung issue na yan, basahin niyo. Next naman is religious-based terrorism. Ito naman, syempre, ayan, from the word itself, di ba, maraming yung paniniwala nila kay God. Sabi nilang ganito na papatayin ko kayo, ganyan. Di ba? Others will actually kill themselves if they believe that it will further their cause and that their God will be pleased by their actions. May mga ganyang terrorism wherein yung, alam niyo yung mga nagpapakamatay or yung nagbabomb ng sarili nila? Sila mismo, meron bomba sa katawan, tapos pupunta siya sa specific place, and then, alam niyo yung mga ginagawa na nagpapabomba sila sa mga simbahan? Alam niyo yan, yung mga nauso na, di ba, yung isang simbahan, sumabog, ganyan. Yan, isa yan sa mga, yan, suicide bomber. Yan ang isa sa mga religious-based terrorism. Kasi, binibase nila ang terrorism kung ano ang paniniwala nila sa religion nila. So, para sa kanila, yung ginawa nila na suicide bombing or so what sa isang simbahan, isang nakakabanal yun para sa kanila. Isang banal na gawain. So, ganun ha. Ito, yung pagiging terrorism nila, or terrorist nila, is nakabase kung ano man ang pinapaniwalaan nila sa religion nila. Maraming ganyan, yung mga nababaltaan nyo na suicide bombing inside or pinasabog yung isang Catholic church or so what. Diba? Tapos Muslim daw yung gano'n or so what. Hindi naman natin ma-identify yung mga specific religion nila. Kasi sometimes cult sila yung mga kulto. Diba? Okay, the psychology of terrorists, motivation of terrorists, according to Crenshaw, opportunity for action, the need to belong, the desire for social status, and the acquisition of material reward. Bombing. Yan, let's go with bombing. What's with the bombing? Okay? This is any incident which uses a device constructed with criminal intent and using of high explosives, low explosives, or blasting agents explosives. Alam niyo naman ang bombing, di ba? So, the term also refers to incidents where premature detonations occurs during preparation, transportation, or placement of constructed device. So, what are the explosive incidents? These are explosive involved situations that encompasses bombings, incendiary bombings, attempted bombings, stolen and recovered explosive or so what. So, let's go. Ito. Kailangan pa bang i-further elaborate ang bombing? Alam niyo naman to, merong detonate with device, tapos yun ang mismong magiging incident. So, let's start with this one. Post-blast investigation. Oo nga pala, I remember. In order for you to understand more about this subject, siguro, di ba nagkaroon na yung CRDI311? Yung fundamentals of investigation. So, nagbasa na ba kayo about dun sa PNP manual? Yung PNP manual, yung investigative manual procedures. Have you read that? Okay, I am recommending you to read that one. Lalo na kapag naka-open na yung loto nyo. Naka-open na ba yung loto nyo? Yung criminal law book 2? So, hindi pa. So, ngayon, I advise you to please read that one, yung PNP manual, DIDM. 500 pages. Okay, usually, ang nandoon, no, bakit po masyado siyang nandoon, madami? Kasi po, kumpleto na lahat ng about the investigation, okay? Sa lahat ng CRDI subjects nyo, yun po ang importante. You must read that one. Kasi yun ang basic na ginagamit natin sa Philippines. Yun po yung PNP manual na investigation. DIDM, no? PNP manual, sabi niya ganyan. Investigative procedures, ganyan. So, lahat nandun na, kahit nga robbery or so what, or lahat ng, kahit lalo na kapag napunta nyo na yung subjects na, criminal law 2 or yung book 2 ng revised penal code, magiging essential yun sa inyo. Kasi nakasama rin siya doon. So again, itong closed blast investigation na to, galing lang din to doon. So, comprehensive forensic inquiry specifically on bombing incident through conduct of various investigative techniques, which involves a recovery of physical evidence, mainly for reconstructions of explosives, fragments recovered to determine the device components, the modus operandi, and subsequently to identify the perpetrator. So, post-blast investigation, ito yung ginagamit or ginagawa nila after the bombing incident. Diba? Kaya nga sabi niya, post-blast. Pagkatapos ng bombing incident. So, there are minor case explosion and major case explosion. Pag sinabi natin na minor case explosion, the explosion has no fatality, nor injured damage to property. So, meron lang sumabog na ganun, pero hindi identified, walang nasaktan, diba? Or walang nasirang gamit. That is minor case of explosion. Inom lang ako ulit. And then, we also have the major case explosion. Ito na. This incurred injuries or death. Meron na. Number of persons and damage to property. Kapag ang isang bombing is madami siyang damage to property or merong nasugat or may namatay, that is a major case of explosion. So, what is the procedure? So, ito. So, request assistance to bomb squad unit or EOD. Meron tayong bomb squad or EOD sa sa mismong PNP. Yan yung unit nila. So, personnel to determine the cause of explosion. Alamin nila yan. Ano yung cause ng explosion na yan? And whether criminal or accidental in nature. Also, isa sa mga trabaho ng mga EOD personnel is to know whether criminal or accidental. So, if incident is criminal in nature, gather information from witnesses and determine the significance of place where the explosion occurred. So, determine existence of target and establish motive. So, if knowledge is developed, information gathered can be used for future reference. So, ang gagawin ng mga EOD, pag merong pagsabog, tatawagin talagang EOD. Alamin nila whether intended ba yan or accidented. Diba? Kapag intended, that is a criminal. So, therefore, alamin din nila ano yung cause, bakit merong nagkaroon ng pagsabog. Yun ang ginagawa ng mga EOD. And then, ayan, they will conduct a preliminary evaluation. So, of the crime scene. So, first responder must assess the scene quickly yet thoroughly to determine the course of action to be taken. And then, syempre, exercise scene safety kasi, alam nyo, baka meron pa kasing natitirang bomba eh. Kapag ganyan. Kaya kapag may bombing incident, wala agad pumapasok dyan kung DEOD lang. Kasi yung iba, alam nyo yung mga landmines? O yung kapag naapakan nila, sasabog. Kaya yung iba, kapag ganyan, EOD lang talaga ang mag-investigate kasi hindi pa nila secure kung ano laman ng bag, baka naman pag meron silang ginalaw doon, may sasabog pa or so on. So, exercise him safety. First responder must take steps into identify, remove, or mitigate safety hazards. Sabi niya. Hanging live, electric wires, ayan. And then, administer life-saving efforts. First responder must rescue living victims and provide treatment for life-threatening injuries. So, habang may pagsabog o after ng pagsabog, tingnan nila yung mga injured. Siyempre, kailangan automatically dalhin yan sa emergency unit. And then, we have established security and control. Ayan. Alam nyo na yung, meron silang barricade niyan. O yung police line, do not cross. Tapos, meron pang, lalo na sa mga bombing incident, meron pang specific area pa. After nung may nakabox na yun, meron pang nakabox na other. Bakit? Kasi baka may biglang sumabog kasi yun ang isip nila. And then, di ba, ensure scene integrity. So, the incident commander must secure or ensure the integrity of the scene by establishing security perimeters and staging areas, contamination control procedures, and evidence collection and control procedures. Yan pa. Conduct scene walkthrough. Ayan. Secure required resources, develop written documentation, photograph, videotape, and locate interview victims and witnesses. Lahat naman yan parang kung ano lang yung ginagawa din ng normal investigation. Though most rigid lang nga siya kasi nga bombing incident. Ayan. Tapos yan, mag-request silang assistance sa bomb squad or ng EOD ng SOCO. So, yung EOD ng SOCO, yan, or bomb squad unit, sila nang bahala sa mga yan, sa mga nakolekt nilang evidences. Pag-aaralan nila yan, ano yung cause or so what. Ayan. So, ganun nila ginagawa ang bombing. Madali lang naman. Next! Pero, mahirap ang training ng mga yan, kasi yung classmate ko, nasa, ano sila ngayon nag-training siya ng EOD. Mahirap yan. Dati, nung dyan kami, nung face-to-face ang class, nung estudyante din ako, nagkaroon kami ng seminar about sa mga ganyan. Sana hopefully kayo din, kahit hindi tayo face-to-face, magkaroon kayo ng seminar about that. Kasi alam nyo, pinakita sa amin yung mga iba't ibang bomba nun. Though, syempre, hindi na yung detonated. Diba? Paano yung bomba, ano yung sura ng granada, ganyan. Tapos, tinuruan nila kami kung paano yun, paano hindi sasabog ang isang granada, or so what, ganyan. Sana kahit kayo, sana, malay nyo, tingnan natin, meron kayong seminar din about them. Money laundering, hindi ko na to di-discuss, diba? Na-discuss na yan sa inyo dati. So, ito na, ayan. Hopefully, Course Unit 4. Okay, the topics for Course Unit 4 is carnapping and anti-fencing. Ayan. Kung di man kayo maging driver, mag-carnap na lang kayo. Meron kayong subject na traffic. Meron ba dito mga driver na or talagang meron ng license? Ayan. So, sa akin kasi, kung hindi ko ba sila mapakuha ng driver's license today, kasi masyadong mahal, pinapag-take ko sila ng exam katulad ng sa LTO. Okay, Anti-Carnapping Act of 1972. So, what are the acts constitute a carnapping? What law punishes carnapping? RA 6539. Okay po. It is the taking of motor vehicle belonging to another without the latter's consent. Ito yung mga elements The taking by means of violence against or intimidation of persons by using force upon things. The taking is with intent to gain, syempre. The taking includes defacing, tampering with, repainting, ayan. Ang gagawin kasi nila sa carnapping, kukuhanin nila yan. Tapos, re-repaint nila, di ba? Repainting, bodybuilding, remodeling, dismantling, and overhauling. Yung iba, ma'am, what if nagnakaw lang siya ng gamit? Wait lang. Daddy! Wait lang Daddy! Daddy! Tignan mo nga si Chip, meron tong kinuha, oh. Tabi. Sorry. Yung aso ko kasi nandito nanggugulo siya. Sumasali siya dito pag nagtuturo ako. Gusto niya nandito siya sa gilid ko. Nanggugulo. Meron siyang kinuha Meron kasi sa bibig niya kaya tinawag ko yung daddy ko. So again, back to sorry for that. Okay, nanggulo lang. So isipin niyo lang kung face to face may kumatok sa sa pinto, tinatanong ako or so what, ganun. So, again,
Nanghingi ng chok.
nanghingi ng shock, ganyan, or merong may pinapapirma. So, what? Checker. Sige, aso ko yung checker. Sige. So, the taking includes defacing, tampering, repainting, bodybuilding, remodeling, diba? Dismantling, or overhauling. Yung iba, ang ginagawa nila, kahit hindi siya ninakaw yung buo, pero kukuha nilang nila yung specific na gamit, that is considered as carnapping pa rin. Okay. So, ayan. Note! Diba? Sige nga, what is the definition of motor vehicle? Katulad ng sa traffic. Diba? What is a motor vehicle? Paano ba natin masasabi na makakarnap siya? Kasi sinabi dito, kailangan, it is the taking of motor vehicle. So, ano ba ang definition ng motor vehicle? According to RA 4136, that is, tinuturo naman sa inyo sa isang subject. Diba? What is a motor vehicle?
Po sa traffic management.
Oo, sa traffic management, tinuturo yan kasi hindi lahat po considered as a motor vehicle. Diba? We have different types of vehicle. Yung mga sedan, SUV, ganyan, diba? Ano yung mga coupe. Alam niyo ba yung mga yan? Yung mga tawag sa kanila, yung mga different types ng mga cars, diba? We have motor vehicle. Okay, pag sinabi natin motor vehicle, it is any vehicle propelled by any power other than muscular power. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga cart or so what, hindi yan considered as a motor vehicle. So, using public highways but excepting. Okay? Again, lahat ng motor vehicle, pero, except otherwise to this one. Kapag yung sasakyan is road rollers, trolley cars, street sweepers, sprinklers, lawn mowers, bulldozer, ayan, graders, forklifts, amphibian trucks, and cranes. If not used on public highways, vehicles which run only on rails, trucks or tractors, yung mga yan, and traction engine, and all kinds of use exclusively for agricultural purposes, hindi po yan kasama as a motor vehicle. So, yung nakikita yung bulldozer, hindi po yan tinatawag na motor vehicle. Ang motor vehicle, okay, intended lang siya to any type of car that is used for public highway. Ibig sabihin, for transportation. That is a motor vehicle. Naintindihan po ba? Pero yung mga nakikita yung bulldozer, forklifts, yan, amphibian trucks, hindi yan motor vehicle. Naintindihan po. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, kapag ninakaw yon, ang pwede lang makaan sa carnap is yung mga yan, yung mga ginagamit nga as in a public highway. So, trailers having, pati yung mga, ma'am, what if ang nakarnap is yung mga sa tren, ganyan. Hindi yan carnapping. Kasi hindi naman po considered as a motor vehicle yung mga tren or so what. Yan. So, trailers having a number of wheels, when propelled or intended to be propelled by attachment of a motor vehicle, shall be classified as separate motor vehicle with no power rating. Or kasama sila doon sa tinatawag natin na RA 4136 na Special S. For example, di ba may mga trailer trucks, tapos meron silang sa likod, yung kanwari, truck siya, tapos meron siyang trailer. Yung dalawa yung ganyan niya, yung dalawang box. So, yun. Considered as a part of motor vehicle, tapos naka-included sila doon sa Special S. Ng, yung parang another type of motor vehicle. Yan. Again, it is a taking away of cattle by any means of method or scheme. That is carnapping. Yun ang definition ng motor vehicle. Kahit nga sa RE 4136. Sabi nga naman estudyante, basic. Diba? Next! Okay, what are the evidences needed to file for carnapping? We have testimonial evidence, diba? Documentary evidence, diba? Certificate of registration of the motor vehicle, macro-etching examination of the motor. Ano po yung macro-etching, ma'am? Ito yung tinitingnan nila yung sa ilalim, yung pinaka, saan tawag doon? Meron yan meron silang tinitingnan sa pinaka-ilalim na parang serial number nila. Diba? Yan, macro-etching. And then, photographs of carnap motor vehicle, police records, and other documents. And then, object evidence. Now, meron kasing, ito, yung RA 65 39 was amended by this new law, RA 10883. Okay? Otherwise known as the new Anti-Carnapping Act of 2016, the RA 10883. It is a law which punishes carnapping in the Philippines. Okay? For the purposes of knowing what is carnapping, di ba? One must be able to know what is motor vehicle in the first place. For example, ma'am, ninakaw yung kuliglig sa amin. Carnapping ba yon? Yung kuliglig, yung ginagamit ng mga magsasaka.
Hindi po.
Data carnapping? Pero parang ano siya? Parang siyang sasakyan?
Hindi.
Data carnapping? No. Kasi hindi naman siya included first place, hindi siya motor vehicle. Diba? Sa carnapping, always remember, okay, para consider mong carnapping yan, ang ninakaw ba motor vehicle? Yung katulad na nga na-discuss ko sa inyo, ganito ba siya? Yung mga motor vehicle. So, except dun sa mga sinabi kong yun, hindi nga sila motor vehicle. Again, sabi niya, for purposes of knowing what carnapping is, one must able to know what is motor vehicle. And motor vehicle is defined in RA 4136. So, as defined under this law, motor vehicle refers to any vehicle propelled by any power than muscular power using public highways. Ayan, public highways. So, note, the following are not embraced in the definition of motor vehicle. Ayan, sabi nga sa inyo, yung mga road rollers, street sweepers, yan, hindi yan kasali as motor vehicle. On rail or trucks, hindi yan kasama as a vehicle. Next, okay, RA 10883 punishes the crime of carnapping, which refers to taking with intent to gain a motor vehicle belonging to another without latter's consent, syempre, by means of violence against or intimidation of person by using force upon things. So, the Supreme Court has ruled in the case of the people of the Philippines versus Garcia and Bernabe, April 1, 2003, that it does not matter if the person, okay, from the motor vehicle was taken is not the owner thereof. What is simply required is that property taken does not belong to the offender. Kasi nagkaroon ng kaso na, for example, hindi daw siya mako-considered as na carnapping is if ang kinuha na nilang sasakyan hindi naman pala nila pagmamayari. Ayan. So, basta kinuha mo yung sasakyan is, basta hindi mo siya pagmamayari, it is considered as a carnapping. Ang nangyayari, dati kasi, parang ganito, kunwari, si Joey Boy de la Cruz may kotse siya. Ngayon, si Joey Boy de la Cruz, pinahiram niya yung kotse niya kay John Peter Anastacion. Okay. Ngayon, si John Peter Anastacion, ginagamit niya yung sasakyan ni Joey Boy de la Cruz. Dumating ito si Jamil Madla. Okay. Si Jamil Madla, siya yung carnapper natin. Ang gagawin niya, nanakawin niya yung ginagamit ni John Peter Anastacion. Ang tanong, it is considered as a carnapping? Yes. Kahit hindi pagmamayari ni John Peter Anastacion yon, sinasabi nito na kahit, diba, it is just simply required that the property taken does not belong to the offender. Kahit na ang ninakaw niya is ang akala niya pagmamayari na John Peter Anastacion, the fact na hindi yun kay Jamil Madla, it is considered as carnapping. Next. So, penalty for carnapping. Okay? Siyempre, just like any other serious crimes, any person who is found guilty of carnapping shall, regardless of the value of the motor vehicle taken, be punished by imprisonment. Ito, kapag ang carnapping na-commit siya without violence, okay, without violence kahit sa tao man or anything, therefore, ang punishment niya is 20 years, 1 day, but not more than 30 years. Pero kapag naman ang carnapping as ginawa niya by means of violence, ano yung by means of violence? Sinira niya yung kotse, sinaksak niya yung may-ari, or so what, pinatay niya yung may-ari, that is not less than 30 years and 1 day, but not more than 40 years. Pero, okay, take note, when the owner, driver, or occupant, okay, of the carned motor vehicle is killed or raped, pinatay niya, or nirape niya yung may-ari ng sasakyan, that is a life imprisonment. Yung kanina kasi, hindi naman niya pinatay. Meron lang siyang intimidation. Parang sinaksak lang niya, pero injury lang. Ganyan. So, next, concealment of carnapping. Anong mangyayari kapag concealment of carnapping naman? It shall also be punishable under the new law. Any person guilty of concealment of carnapping shall be imprisoned of 6 years up to 12 years. Okay? 6 years up to 12 years and fine equal to the amount of the acquisition cost of the motor vehicle. So, concealment of carnapping, parang alam mo, yun na meron na carnap pero tinago mo. Okay? Next is ito na. If violator is a juridical person. Pag sinabi natin juridical person, we're talking about the, not a specific person, committed by the group. Okay? Public official or foreign national. If the person violating any provision of this act is a juridical person, the penalty shall be imposed on its president, secretary, and members of the board, directors, or any of its officers, employees who may have directly participated in the violation. Again, kapag juridical person, we're talking about with a group of person. For example, company, ganyan. Next, public official naman or employee who directly commits unlawful acts defined in this act or is guilty gross negligence, duty of connives, with or permits commission of any said unlawful acts, diba? In addition to the penalty stated above, be dismissed in the service. Ayan. Kapag naman public official ka, tas ikaw yung nagkarnap, hindi ka lang makukulong, mawawala ka pa sa pagkatrabaho mo or pagiging public servant mo. And syempre, kapag foreign national naman, convicted with this act, diba, shall be deported immediately. Made-deport siya from the Philippines. Is carnapping bailable? Is carnapping bailable? Sige nga. Carnapping. Bailable ba ang carnapping? Let's ask from the, Joanna Carpio. Are you with us? Miss Joanna Carpio? Joanna? Okay, ganito ang rule ko ha. Kapag tinawag ko kayo, di kayo sumagot, inaalis ko. Okay? Kasi,
Hindi po siya, ma'am.
Ano? Okay, pag tinawag ko kayo, tapos, hindi kayo sumasagot, aalisin ko ha. Ganun ang patakaran ko. Kasi, sayang naman internet nyo. Ibig sabihin, hindi naman pala kayo nakikinig, diba? Ganyan. Miss Joanna Carpio, how about balagtas? Balagtas? Is carnapping bailable?
Po.
Is carnapping bailable?
I think yes, ma'am, kasi lahat naman ng yung mga ibang nakalimutan ko yung sabihin ko.
How about
Mga
ang
ibang
lamanlan? Is
Ay,
carnapping bailable?
siguro ma'am.
How about Jebin Pahariliaga?
Ma'am, hindi po, ma'am.
Jebin Pahariliaga?
No, yes, ma'am.
Is carnapping bailable?
Yes, ma'am.
How about Samuel John De Leon?
No, ma'am.
Carnapping bailable?
No, ma'am.
No. The right to bail can be availed of provided the evidence the guilt is not strong. So, pwedeng mag-bail. Basta, ang evidence is not strong. Pero if there is a specific evidence that would literally parang trap or parang sa'yo talaga or very strong ang evidence, therefore, hindi ka pwedeng mag-bail. So, the bail should be denied when the evidence of guilt is strong in the following instances. Ano yon? When charged with carnapping, when the crime of carnapping is committed by criminal groups, gangs, or syndicates, when carnapping is committed by means of violence, ayan, any person or force upon things, or when the owner, driver, passenger, or occupant of the carnap vehicle is killed, raped. In the course of carnapping, therefore, hindi ka pwedeng mag-bail. Okay? So, special provision on reward of who reports a carnapping. Ito, merong mga special reward sa mga nagre-report ng carnapping. Any person who voluntarily gives information leading to the recovery of carnap vehicles and for the apprehension of the persons charged with carnapping shall be given a monetary reward. Diba? Yung mga magre-report. So, as the PNP may determine, any information given by the informer shall be treated as confidential matter. Yan. Anti-fencing law of 1972. So, what law punishes fencing? It is PD 1612. Tanong, ma'am, ano po yung anti-fencing? Rusty Castro, ano ba yung anti-fencing na yan? Rusty Castro?
Ma'am,
Ano ba yung, sa tingin mo, anti-fencing?
ito yung ano ma'am, yung anti-fencing ma'am, yung ginamit na ninakaw yung motor ba ma'am?
Ginamit yung nakaw na motor, that is carnapping. Hindi. Pag binili mo yung nakaw na gamit.
Eh, yung pala ma'am, bibili yung nakaw na gamit.
Okay, again, anti-fencing law, it is yung parang gagamitin mo or bibilhin mo yung alam mong nakaw na gamit. So, what are the acts constitute a fencing? Hindi po yung fencing na alam yung ganun Yun, okay? Yung may espada-espada, hindi yon. What is anti-fencing? Any person, firm, association, corporation, or partnership or other organization who or which commits the act of fencing. Yan. Any act of person with intent to gain for himself or another. Such person, anong ginawa na? Shall buy, receive, possess, keep, acquire, conceal, sell, or dispose, or any shall buy or sell or in other manner deal in any article, item, or object, or anything of value which he knows, or should be known to him, alam niya, no? To have been derived from the proceeds of the crime of robbery or theft. Pag alam mong nakaw yon, tapos binili mo, therefore, yan, fencing yan. Okay po?
Madami niyan, ma'am, sa Green Hills.
Madami yan yung mga nagbebenta ng phone. Tingnan nyo to, Backwards use cellphone. Ganyan. Ibig sabihin, lumipat siya ng backward para makuha ang mga cellphone. So again, testimonial evidence, pwede siyang documentary evidence and object evidence. Kapag documentary evidence, ang kailangan yan is receipt of contracts of sale, pertinent documents, any document showing ownership of the stolen items. Yun lang. Yun lang ang anti-fencing natin. So, tanong, ma'am, what if bumili ako, hindi ko alam na nakaw yan? Yung tatanungin nyo, di ba? Bumili ako cellphone ma'am, second hand kasi. Hindi ko naman alam na nakaw. Am I considered, tawag dito, sa anti-fencing?
Wala namang makakahuli, ma'am, or wala namang siguro.
Yes ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Wala naman sa walang
Yes, ma'am.
makakahuli or so what? Diba? Are you considered? For example, bumili ka lang ng second hand. Whether
Yes,
may
ma'am.
nag-report or so what?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes ma'am, pwede po.
So you consider bumili ka ng second hand na cellphone without knowing na nakaw yun? You are considered as anti-fencing?
Hindi po yata, kasi hindi mo naman alam eh.
Ito, sa elements niya. Anong elements niya? Ito, yan kayo nagkukulang. Ganyan, sabi ko nga sa inyo, alamin nyo muna.
Ay, hindi po, ma'am, kasi hindi niya po alam.
Anong sabi niya? Object or
Should
anything
knows,
of
he
value
knows po
which
daw
he
eh.
knows should be known to him.
Hindi po, ma'am, kasi hindi po niya alam.
Therefore, kung bumili ka man ng second hand na cellphone, tapos hindi mo alam na nakaw yun, therefore, hindi ka naman considered ng law na to. Naintindihan? So, do you have any questions before I end this one?
None po.
Ma'am,